Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Student of the Game. I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. And listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport. We're glad you could do it here with us and more now than ever. If there is a game, I am trying to be a student of it as ground breaks and things are changing or all of that stuff, or at least we've been led to believe. Listen, for those that don't know, um, whether you be listening to us on the podcast or on the YouTube streams of the Sertova Media Channel or Huddle Up, there's been a lot of talk in the media about how the women's college basketball tournament would be more exciting than the men this year and all this other stuff. And while it was easily a throwaway line, well, I shouldn't say easily, but easily could be construed as a throwaway line at the time, we're kind of seeing that come to pass. And we'll be talking with the head of the three-point conversion, Raphael Haynes, soon enough. By the way, shouts to three-point conversion, of course. Bing! My voice still isn't perfect. I'm working on the bings, guys. But the big piece here is we're witnessing something that I think could be the next big deal for women's basketball, right? This is the kind of stuff that leads to statues in history, right? I'm not saying there'll be a statue of Caitlin Clark, although I'm not prepared to rule it out either. What I am saying is the statue I mentioned, for example, is Jim Thorpe in the center of the Pro Football Hall of Fame as the person, the athlete, very central to bringing pro football to us, right? David Stern and his involvement with creating the dream team for the NBA to make it as international as it is. And look what that's become. I can make the argument that Caitlin Clark for the women is that figure. I'm not saying necessarily greatest player of all time. Shannon Miller's a thing before the WNBA existed. And you know, over and above being related to one of the best shooters of the era of basketball I would watch in Reggie Miller. We can't account for her presence there, and I'm not here to say that Caitlin Clark is necessarily better than Miller or Brittany Griner or anybody like that at this point as far as her play. But she is the figure that is going to put things on the map, right? Joe Namath of the Jets guaranteeing that victory in Super Bowl III and getting it. He wasn't a great player, but he was a guy that made the AFL a viable product to eventually see the two leagues merge, right? All that other stuff. What makes me think that? Well, for those that don't know, I do follow Colin Cowherd. I'm trying to model some of my presentation, what I do off of him. Nick Wright is somebody else who I listen to who's out there in the mainstream, and I mention them because both of them open their shows. In the case of Nick Wright on his podcast, he opened talking about LSU coach Kim Mulkey not being able to handle Caitlin Clark. Colin Cowherd opened his show Tuesday talking that very same thing. You can't stop great. People were criticizing Kim Mulkey for not being able to stop Caitlin Clark, but maybe it was just Caitlin Clark. Maybe it's just like trying to stop Jordan, you know, that kind of thing. And while I agree with the overall point, the main thing I'm trying to get at is welcome to the dawning of women's sport becoming prominent in basketball. Granted, Talker to some extent had that going with the women's national team here in this country and regularly outperforming the men, which started to spark the conversation, one could argue, about the importance of women's sport. And I'm not counting things like necessarily like gymnastics or figure skating where women are more dominant or more, associated with performing the sport, right? It's the when it comes to men's gymnastics, women's gymnastics, those are two different art forms. They focus on different things, strength versus grace in a lot of cases. And both, not that you can really have strength in figure skating, but if you're executing something that's more of an aesthetic art, albeit physical, the tools the performers have, athletes obviously, but I say performers for a reason here, are different, so the products are different, right? You're more looking at women's figure skating, for example, because, or ice dancing, whatever you want to call it, because it's pretty, whereas with the men, you're more inclined to look at technique and things like that. Not that the one cannot bleed into the other, but they're two clearly different products, right? Whereas with basketball or soccer, the games are generally the same. Maybe they're played, air quotes, a little bit differently, but certain elements have opened up in the game. Steph Curry, for example, one could make the argument that seeing that style of play succeed in the NBA is what has led to a Caitlin Clark type to somebody who isn't 7 foot, but can chuck it from the cheap seat successfully while finding their teammates and dishing off passes and having court vision, can be somebody who is prolific on a basketball court. And that could have in some way helped with the cultural evolution of the game of basketball being something that it was an offensive lineman. I was like, oh, Bill Laimbeer is rough, whereas now there's a lot more grace, there's a lot more skill to it, which lends itself more to women playing it. Sure, I'm not saying there's not post players and players with mass in the WNBA. I cited Brittany Griner, or women's hoops in general. I've cited Brittany Griner. Heck, with the black and gold banneret, bing, I've seen some Big 12 athletes, some women basketball players who have plenty of mass in the middle do battle, and it's an epic thing to see. I'm not here to say that element doesn't exist. It's just less so because, physics. But Caitlin Clark is now that figure that's rising women's basketball to the top that can bring people in. But here's a problem that Nick Wright pointed out, and he mentioned the fact that the league cap for the WNBA for the maximum salary one could have is $240,000. With the exposure that Caitlin Clark has, his words, that ain't going to cut it. I happen to think he's right. But with the WNBA currently having and let me look this up. I got it here, right? According to the internet, so it must be true, right? The CBA marks the salary cap for a team at $1.4 million, which, by the way, there's athletes out there that make that in a single game or performance. That's just crazy to me. But I say all that to say, Caitlin Clark yearly should probably be worth that or more. But Giles, she's going to get endorsement. I get all that. The answer to whoever drafts her or anything like that lies in something that another player in a different sport was condemned for even considering. Caleb Williams was rumored as the number 1 pick, allegedly to be expecting or negotiating for a share of team stock, team ownership to whomever would draft him, presumably the Bears. And that's asinine. I don't think that's a good idea in general in that particular sport. However, considering the fact that Caitlin Clark could alter the very space in and of itself, if the current CBA negotiated has $240,000 as the max number a player can make in salary, to assure Caitlin Clark gets in the building and isn't at the behest of an endorsement deal over the team, because you and I both know Nike or somebody like that's going to scoop that up and Wheaties, whatever. Is the Wheaties box still a thing? I don't know. Anyways, the punchline is she'll get an endorsement. And she'll get an endorsement that is several times what her salary is. I think, and be it the Fever or whoever it is, whoever drafts her should offer ownership of the club. 2 things happens then. A, they're going to get super great headlines. Period, point blank, end of story. B, Caitlin Clark would then get stock in a rising company, essentially, in the WNBA that could grow into something titanic. And as a figure who could be deeply responsible for that, a 1% ownership or something like that, that would make great headlines. It would actually be quite the metaphor for what she's done for the sport already. Not just for basketball, but for women playing it. Will she be the only one? No. Should other players be in line for possibly that deal? Sure. At some point, players are going to be commonplace enough to where that wouldn't necessarily need to be offered. But with Caitlin Clark coming, with Angel Reese coming, with down the line, if things hold, the Paige Buchers and the Juju Watkins of the world, should they possibly get those deals? I don't know. It depends on how much draw they have. But I think that's the answer to the question of getting Caitlin Clark in the building and keeping her there. Also, if you happen to be the team that drafts Caitlin Clark and you do this, it's more likely to keep her in the building because she's vested in it. The chances of her getting swiped by another team are reduced theoretically. Not to mention the great headlines and all the, positive stuff you like to see with inclusion and the evolution of women in sport and all this other stuff. You'll have all those bases covered, and I think that's something that should be in consideration and talked about more than the rumor, headline, whatever you want to call it, about Ice Cube offering Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in the Big Three. But that's just me. No disrespect to the Big Three and all that, sure. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. But let's move on to this. And listen, it's been a while since there's been a little controversy in the building. Yes, I did miss him, in case you're wondering. The man who has bolstered many of my writings, who has helped me get to a lot of events, including the hat I'm wearing, which is Super Bowl 57, because you can't see it. I'm wearing it backwards here on the YouTube channel. Also, you can find the Duval Dive on his network's iHeartRadio channel. Of course, I refer to the 3-point conversion. And when you say the 3-point conversion, there should be no controversy. My man Contra is the guy that runs the show. For you non-believers, Raphael Haynes in the building. What's going on, my guy?
What's going on, man? Did you miss me? Man,
there it is. Now it's an appearance officially.
It's been a minute since I've done that, man. So it's good to be back on, man. So
yeah, no, hey, good to have you been in the building. And we're not even in football previews yet. We're going to talk the Bears more deep too. But listen, for all the talk and all the scuttlebutt that's taken place lately, the Justin Fields move and all of that. First of all, over or under 2.5. How many things did you throw at the TV when you found out that Justin Fields was leaving for a pack of Skittles?
I didn't. I was actually two parts of that. So,
okay,
but leaving, I prepared myself the day before. Yeah, because I didn't think we were trading him. I thought he was going to stay. Just how everything was shaping out when we did the move with God, I can't think of his name now. Keenan Allen. I was like, okay. Oh man, yeah, we got to keep him. Would that be, if I'm Justin, I'm calling them and I'm acting like a disgruntled ex-girlfriend. I'm calling and say, hey, if y'all trade me, I'm busting tires, windows, all of that. And like, I was just like, they can't trade him. But I watched the Keenan Allen interview, or his introduction interview, and just the way he was talking, it was like, oh. It's not looking good. We got to pay him because he's looking on staying, like he wants to stay. And so I prepared myself the day before. But as many people were mad at, we only gave nothing for him. We got nothing in return for Justin. I understood what Pose was doing. He did right by Justin. He promised, he said it, and the report came out that four teams, they were interested. Now, I don't know if he got the best deals from them beforehand, but pretty sure he could have got better deals from, the other 4 teams, and he probably got better offers. But like they stated, he asked Justin's team. They said, nope, he wants to go to Pittsburgh. And they did it. So to me, that's him doing that, and him then Pose going out to the players, his best friend, all his close friends, before he made the trade, and he told them, hey, we're going to let them go. We have to trade them. To me, it showed a difference in management from all teams, but especially the Chicago Bears. I don't think the general manager and the players, they had respect for each other like that. They trusted management. But to me, that showed trust. He did right by Justin. And then also the fact that he told Justin's closest friends on the Bears, hey, man, before it goes public, hey, we're going to trade him. And the players talked about that. They're the ones who spoke up. Cole Kmet said that. So the fact that he did that, it's a new team. It's a new energy. It's like you said, he came in to change the culture, and he's doing that. And I think when you have trust with the GM and management, only go up from here. So, like I said, I had mixed feelings. I didn't want him to go, but I prepared myself. I cried the day before, so I was ready for it.
Yeah, you and I were both Justin Fields guy. We both liked the pick for the Bears, and with all the stuff you mentioned about trust is interesting. It is certainly the polar opposite compared to his new Steeler teammate Russell Carrington Wilson and what he just dealt with his previous team there in Denver. But now with Fields out of the building, I mean, what's more inevitable, Thanos or Caleb Williams at this point coming in the building?
It's got to be Caleb. And I'm excited. The reason why I'm excited, even though I wanted Justin, he's gone, so you can't cry with spoiled milk. You can, but I won't. And the thing is, this is the first time we get a quarterback that, like with Justin, people didn't know. I thought he was going to be good. His ability to run, he was accurate in college, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that are accurate in college. But it's the first time, probably in Bears history, that we drafted someone, or besides Sid Luckman, I don't know what he was in college, but just, where we have a quarterback that he has the raw tools to be great. Like you saw it. I mean, I don't ever drafted a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. We had a chance to, and we went Trubisky.
Well, yeah.
So to do, and who knows? I mean, hey, we can go with Jalen Daniels or somebody. Never know. And which I wouldn't be too mad about that. But I want Caleb. But still, the fact that we have a chance to say, hey, we're changing our franchise with a franchise quarterback. Even when we picked Justin, I love the fact that Ryan Pace went in and said, hey, we're making trades to get this guy. That was great. I mean, he was the same one that got Trubisky, but he went and said, I'm going to try it again, which I'm not mad at. And he got Justin. It was like, oh my God, we got somebody. He's a game changer. But now you have somebody that this guy really has, really has the skill set and the talent to be great,
And somebody talent. Yeah, somebody who's known as a prolific passer and not just an athlete, right? Fields was an athlete that could throw. This is a passer that happens to be a great athlete. If you're talking about Caleb Williams or Jalen Daniels or whoever, listen, I mean, a lot of people are sleeping on my guy Michael Penix, by the way, but that's a whole other thing. I'll just need to get over.
Right. But and it's a stat that people don't know, that because you think about Caleb and you think, okay, Caleb could throw and he's great. He's not going to be as dynamic as Justin running the ball, but people don't know it's only 2 quarterbacks in the history of college football that threw 30 touchdowns and ran for 10 touchdowns 2 years in a row. And that's Patrick Mahomes and Caleb Williams.
Well, there you go. A shining open of things to come, man. No, I can't front on that, man. But listen, this was meant to be a basketball conversation. Let's take it over to the court, to the hardwood there, and talk about that. First of all, obviously the big event. Listen, I know it was could have been seen at this point a few weeks ago as a throwaway line that we media types were saying, oh, the women's basketball tournament could be more entertaining than the men this year. Well, it's certainly looking to go that way. At this point in time, of course, we're just past the aftermath of the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese rematch. Obviously, Iowa won the day over LSU with this one. And this is something in my intro last week, Raph, and I want to put this conspiracy theory in front of you and see if you agree with it. Because, listen, the saying used to be that you didn't make it until Don Rickles burned you. Right now, unfortunately, Don Rickles has passed on. Lisa Lampanelli's been the comedian. And I think you could argue Nikki Glazer is that now. But if those comedians trash you, you know you made it. I say all that to say this, Contra. When the whole hullabaloo about, John Cena getting in the building when Angel Reese, did that to Caitlin Clark or whatever, and it got all the negative press. And man, listen, we know there were certain other undertones, so to speak. I'm invited to the barbecue, so I can bring that up. But listen, the punchline is this: all that press actually drew more attention. Both athletes are on record then and now saying they don't have a problem with each other. In their minds, they're two competitors. That negative press came up. Then now it's a revenge tour thing. But see that and raise you this, Contra, with the allegations, with the expose that came out in the Washington Post, and her going full narrative control, damage control with that crazy interview. It's not going to work, buddy, and all that. As much as we mock that, as much as we, and I say we as in media folks being like, oh, she got something to hide and said this, that, and there was all this negative press. I think that was great for women's basketball on the whole because it got people talking about it and it hyped the bejesus out of this upcoming Final Four. What do you think of that theory?
Well, I'll call and I'll not only call, I'll go all in. The fact that you have so much press, whether it's coming from one end of, like you said, it's the like, I mean, I know this is your show, but hey, I tell the truth and shame the devil. We got black versus white, the race. We have Mulkey, Coach Mulkey and how she is. You have the revenge factor. You have the fact that not even just black versus white, the different cultures, but the funny thing is both of them are, Angel is very, I'm in your face and, I'm going to talk mess. But remember, Caitlin was doing this. She was doing that also. So both of them are very emotional and very, into the game. But you got, people trying to compare those two aspects. Then the fact that they're just great players. Then the fact that the teams are playing well. So you had all of that coming in. It helped. It definitely helped. That's what you want. Beforehand, I was thinking, and I still feel like this, whereas, it's great that we all were looking, talk is, women's basketball is better than the men's and all that.
Well, more exciting is what I should say.
More exciting, I should say. They're talking about this year,
Yeah.
Let's say this. It is because we know the names, the revenge. We don't have that in college basketball, so we know that. So, of course, it's more exciting.
One and done isn't a thing in women's basketball.
Right. The drama with South Carolina and LSU for the tournament. Mm-hmm. The drama in that, that's what you want. That's what you want to see. It kind of reminds me of, and I was too young. I was born during this time. This was right before I was born, actually. It reminds me of, no, I was born. Anyway, Bird and Magic in college. That big, people were watching college basketball then. It was college basketball, but that narrative of French Lick,
Indiana State, all that.
Michigan, the Lansing, Michigan, small school, bigger school, black, white, showboat, quiet, all of that. It was the most televised college game. I don't know if it still is or not, but I know it was for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that played into a part of it. And then you think about when they went to NBA or whatever. But even with college basketball, then it might bring certain fans to say, "Hey, let me watch this game." Because another game that was great was USC versus UConn. I mean, you had two stars right there with Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers. Like you had that, and some people might have even watched that game because of the LSU game. But I say that to say that this can bring awareness to women's basketball, because you know why? Because it wasn't just those two playing well. We saw other players in that game play well.
They came for the Clark, but they saw everything else. And that's another point. I'm glad you're making that point, because Juju is still young. She's still got some time here. I mean, we're talking about Caitlin's transition, and the headline out there, truth or rumor, whatever it is, but Cube talking about throwing $5 million at Caitlin Clark for the big three, right, or any of that, like all that's out there. And then we're going to talk about that a little bit. Don't get it twisted, Contra. But the fact that Juju, I'm glad you brought her up, that she's going to be the next big thing, literally and figuratively, because for her size and what she can do on the court, listen, it's a fascinating thing, man. And I'm watching Big 12 basketball, and I'm still seeing some impressive stuff there from Juju, just in comparison, man. And that chapter's there too. It only bodes better for the sport. But continue, please. Sorry.
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, for the fans who just came to watch this game and see what happens, and even just Caitlin, because Caitlin is that. I mean, yeah, Caitlin brings. We it's hard. Like, I won't call her the greatest college basketball player. It's hard to say that. I mean, when you think about the players that came before her, man. It's been so many, but we know that with Caitlin, we've never seen that type of basketball, that type of style that she plays, So yes, you want to see it. So it's good that college women's basketball, you have that person that you can see and you're like, oh, let's watch, But again, like I was saying, I pray that even for me, I'm guilty of it too. Because sometimes I can't watch everything, I can't. So we make time for what? Hey, let me watch this. Let me watch the man. I'm covering the men's basketball Final Four, so I have to pay attention to that. But
look out for that on the 3-point conversion, by the way.
Right. But yeah, at the same time, I'm guilty of it too. Whereas the big games we watch, but now I'm watching every game, every game going forward, like for the rest of the tournament. I've been watching some of the games, and they can play ball. They can play ball. They can really play ball. I mean, to me, they play more sound ball, believe it or not. I know people say I'm tripping, but they do, than the NBA. And what I mean by that is because you got your box outs, you posting up, you passing the ball. It's not just everybody behind the 3-point line. The ball movement and the people are moving without the ball. That's what I grew up on. It's basketball.
And right. Well, yeah. Well, and that's something I want to add in too. Like, here's the thing. Like, this is the part. And listen, man, we're both guys that watched basketball in the 90s. You and I both know. I say no, but no offense to any people who are the LeBron followers out there, but you and I both know if the game called for more 3-point shooting back in the 90s, the Larry Bird and Michael Jordan would have been better at shooting threes because that would have been demanded of them.
Right. Exactly.
But I say all that to say Steph Curry doing what he did as an undersized player, as a player relying entirely on speed, that style of play being shown as something that you can execute gave birth to not only, and I'm expanding this, gave birth to elements of women's basketball, to see elements of Caitlin Clark's game get prolific. Man, some of them shots she hit against LSU off balance from long distance in the logo and stuff, bombing it from the cheap seats, bro. Like that's not something that you can necessarily do back in the day. But now that kind of skill set has been better embraced, especially with this generation of basketball players, men and women alike, I think it's something that has made the game more accessible to scoring. And you mentioned being more highly skilled. One thing I'll say, as much as I'm a guy who personally enjoys more physical play, the offensive lineman enjoys physical play. Holy snap, there's a shock, right? But one thing that's true is, the Djokovic's and the biggins that can chuck it from the cheap seats. Now Embiid is taking the free throws on technical fouls. Skill matters a lot more than it ever did, and I think that's translating nicely to the women's game. Why you see Angel do what she was, why you see the better fundamentals that you're talking about that used to be a selling point for the WNBA when it first came out, but the Neanderthals like me that were like, no, dunks and physical play, now that access to skill, that focus on skill, I think has opened up the women's game to be prolific, and at just the right time where social media is taking over. And I don't like to talk a lot of politics on the show, but inclusion being a big deal, that's definitely been a factor. I don't care how you feel about woke or not. The punchline is more people are into supporting more demographics, including women's basketball in that element. And they're coming for those reasons, Ref, like you said, and they're staying for the quality basketball. I think you're making a great point there.
Yeah, and it's so much, and we're speaking about the women's basketball, so much in it, like right now, like just for Cardozo, how Camila Cardozo, she, her defense, to me, as great as Caitlin is off the charts, but a baller, of course, Juju Watkins. But Paige Becker, oh my God, Paige is a beast. She is nice. She's a beast.
She's coming off of a nasty injury too. Like I when they were in the tournament 2 years ago and UConn eliminated them, even coming off of injury, then late she was
awesome. And like the games, like you said, Caitlin has the wow factor, the 3-point stuff. Oh my God, how does she do that? No one can do that like her. Paige Becker, she can just flat out ball. I mean, her skill set, everything is fluent. The finger roll, she plays defense, her pivot, all of that is just great. Juju, offensive game, her entire game is probably, to me, is better than like the offensive arsenal is better than all of them. I mean, yes, Caitlin can dribble behind her back, Caitlin can shoot threes, but Juju's mid-range game, Juju's footwork. There's no other, but I don't think no one in the women's basketball has footwork like Juju. But
even with her size, by the way.
Exactly. But then even with what's her name? What's Angel? Angel is a winner. She proved before she got hurt the way she was dominating that game from every aspect, whether it was defense, rebounding, scoring, passing, setting up the offense. It was perfect. So she's a winner. She's a winner. Unfortunately, she got hurt. So, like I said, women's basketball is here to stay. Paige is staying another year. You got Juju. You got some more people coming in that you better look out for. But at the same time, I got to speak up for my man.
I was about to say, we're going to talk about them at some point. Don't worry.
Men's basketball tournament right now has been none other. Buzzer beaters, going to overtime, upsets.
I mean, let me take it here. You say all this, you're going right to my first question. I gotta bring it in. Like, what do you say about the Big 12 and just the parity of the tournament such that it is? First of all, there's a number of teams just on the outside looking in, like UCF, for example, that had to play in the NIT and all that other stuff. And then the Big 12 at this point, no Final Four reps for the Big 12. The best conference, in the opinion of many in the sport, and yet this late in the postseason, they're all gone. What do you take of that? What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, one thing I love about basketball and the tournament, March Madness, with whether it's women's or men's, is the fact that the best team will prevail. It's not it's kind of like NBA, but with the NBA, more than likely, the best team is going to be there in the finals or somewhere towards the finals. But usually, and it's almost like that. You got two number ones and Final Four, but it's like the tournament, man. It just sometimes the best team doesn't always show in the playoff because you're getting ready. You're going to make the tournament. You're playing. It's like Miami Heat, for instance, like the NBA, Miami Heat. I know we'll get to NBA, but right now Miami Heat is 7th right now. They're in the play-in. They're not even in the playoff. They're going to be in the play-in. But yet still, more than likely, they're going to be somewhere towards the end, like they did last year.
They're going to at least get through one round. A lot of people are confident of that. That's right.
Yeah, like they did last year. They went all the way to the finals. They played in the play-in. But with basketball, that's the thing. It's okay. Now it's time to play. It matters. Can you make adjustments? Because now when you're playing the season, Big 12, yes, some people say they were the best conference, and they're playing each other, but yet still you're playing teams that aren't that good. When you get to the tournament, for the most part, every team that's there is good. That's why they're there. So you're gonna have where all the great teams, North Carolina, they were supposed to make it. They lost, Yeah. You had so many teams that should have been there and they didn't, but it's just with the tournament, like I said, the best team for that year usually wins. I mean, they can get hot at the right time, but it's about adjustments. It's about big time play, people stepping up. It's not a routine where we're playing this team, we're going to beat them. We know what they do. No, it's not, because you're playing teams that you're not familiar with, that you've never seen before, So, hey, like I said, that's why I love March Madness, whether it's women or men tournament. But again, don't sleep on the men's. I think this is going to be a good year. I mean, and the funny thing is, and shout out to Making the Cut.
Bing.
Yeah, my guy, he was saying that he talked about how with like last year, you root for the underdog, but then when the underdog gets to the finals, they make it. This sucks. This I'm not watching that. You can't beat it. You can't have
it both ways.
Yeah, no. It's either you should watch it for the pureness of the game. Even with women, you should watch basketball. And of course, you're gonna have the casual fans that I'm only gonna watch during March Madness. But you gotta watch. If you like basketball, you need to watch basketball. It's just what it is. So, but I think this year with the men, you do have UConn and you have Purdue, which is going to be great. You got to start. Then you got NC State, where hey, they're good enough to where they can upset someone. You just
and have, by the way.
right. And then with Alabama, so these are quality teams. Right, I got
to shout out the Wolfpack in honor of UCF SID Justin Wilson there too, because that's his alma mater. So I got to give Justin his bing. Got to give UCF getting in there his props, even though he's a Wolfpack alum. He's the UCF. It's very complicated, that feelings. But listen, I hear what you're saying. The only exception I'll offer you is this: at the end of Hoosiers, I'm still cheering for Hickory. That's all I'm saying. that's that. I'm consistent there. That underdog I back. Okay.
And then like North Carolina, they were supposed to be there, but they lost. What's up, Danny Thompson? So yeah. So, but
shouts to DT.
No, but like I said, I love this time of the year, man. And it's some players still, even though we don't see the big names because people are leaving. I hate that, but yeah, you still got seniors. Zach Edey, my man, I can't think of his name right now, for UConn. You got these players that's been there. Burns for NC State, he's been there for a few years, been playing college basketball for a few years. So you do have that, but you got some quality basketball, man, regardless if they're freshmen or not. So like I said, just enjoy it. I know I will.
Let me take it over to this, man, too, because it's funny, the parallel that college basketball and the NBA have, kind of like the bowl season and the NFL. Bowl season happens when you're getting to the nitty-gritty and narrowing out the playoff for the NFL. March Madness happens just as we're getting to the twilight of the 82 games for the NBA season. Listen, obviously I know you follow the Bills first and foremost. I'm not going to hold that against you. I will thank you for involving yourself in the Vucevic trade years back with the Magic. That was the beginning of the retool so that they could be where they are now. But all that being said, let's start in the East, man. Why am I not hearing more about Jamal Mosley as coach of the year?
I don't know. He should be, but you know, when you got I always mess up his name, Denault from OKC.
Yeah, and that's the other competition is OKC's coach.
And you have to give it to them because we saw them take a step last year where it was like, okay, they're playing pretty well. Now they get Chet, they're going to be real good. But who would have thought they would be number one in the West? Like no one would have thought that, you know. But so you got to give it to him. But Jamal Mosley, man, what he's done with that team, young team at that, you know. I called it, Kyle. I'm on tape. You know, I talked about the Magic.
What would you predict? I don't know what you're referring to.
I said that the Magic would be. I said, don't be surprised, but before the season, when the season's about to start, I said Magic's going to be top 5 team in the East this year.
So you were more optimistic than me. I had them at 6. I had them dodging the play-in, which, I mean, granted, they barely snuck past Portland the other night. And after a 3-game skid. So I know they're not playing great right now, but I'm not mad that you say Mark Dejan. I'm not freaking out about that.
Dejan, I keep see how like hold on real quick. I hate those names where I hear his name, but when you read it, you always go the opposite way.
Yeah,
because you don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, no, and listen, this is the first year doing this much NBA as I've done. Like he's one that made me nervous.
And I hate saying his name, but he's one of those names where I know his name, I hear it, but when I have to read it, it's like, is it? And I go the opposite way, you know. But either or, but yeah.
I mean, listen, I mean, as much as I practice in Takatakumpo, I still get nervous every time before I say it. Like you saw my shoulders stand.
I can say his name now, right? That was another one I hear his name, but it's right there. Same way with Tua. With Tua, you see Tua's name. I cannot say it if I'm reading it. I can't, you know. So
see, it's one of those where listen. I'll say this: if I could say Banaka Patuka, anything is possible. If I could say Fumatu Ma'afala, why can't I say in Takatakumpo? You gotta believe that. Anyways,
but yeah, I saw them, and like you said, they're young, and you was talking about I can't even say now. Okay, so we're just gonna call him Mark. So when you saw Mark, yeah, but you know,
here's what I put with Mosley. Which, by the way, again, if you got Coach D, I ain't mad at you. That did you do your thing, but the reason why I feel like you have to take Jamal Mosley is all the injury concerns on that squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's historic, and I know that there's been a lot of them, and I know he's been dealing with those same ones, but he's getting maximum play out of literally every single guy. Okay? Joe Ingles looks like he should be eating, candy bars and drinking sodas at a damn convenience store, and this dude's popping off freeze something crazy. You didn't know about Joe Ingles. I don't care how you felt about the match. I mean, you knew about it, but you didn't know he was going to do that. Right? Then Coca Bataze's doing thing down low while they're waiting for Wendell Carter Jr. to get right. That's crazy. And oh, by the way, the Wagner brothers, I mean, listen, I know they don't look athletic, Raph. I get it, but they do athletic things. And they got all these injuries. Markel Fultz and Jonathan Isaac are playing at a clip greater than they have lately, and they still missing a lot of games. And then what? Gary Harris seems like he always has something with his ankle lately. He's gotten hurt a lot, and I'm not mad at him for that. That's just something that happened. Heck, even Paolo Banchero, by the way, who is a second-year player, ninth Magic player in franchise history to go all-star.
Mm-hmm.
He's your leader. He's a second-year guy. All this stuff. Listen, again, taking nothing from Coach D. The fact that he made it to the number 1 seed makes a hell of an argument. I'm not mad at that. Right. But man, I got to tell you, Jamal Mosley has dealt with a lot more adversity and a lot more volatility with injuries and a lot of other things going on. Now, if he played in the West and was able to put all this off, man, listen, you don't have an argument. Back to the East, he gets a little relief. I'll grant you that. Go ahead.
That's the thing that's going to really keep people from voting for Mosley, is because of the fact that we saw Philly with their injuries.
Yep.
That was the biggest with Philly, and their injury. And, then with New York, even though New York is 4, New York is 4th, right? I think they're 4th.
I have not checked the standings today. I
believe
I think they're 4th, but I want to double check it before I just say
4th.
It.
Yeah, they're 4th. Then people want to say, well, what about the fact that Indiana, they were dealing with injuries as well, so that plays a part. But at the same time, like you said, and of course, those injuries, you had your major, you had Embiid and Philly. You have I'm looking dead at him. Randall in New York,
yeah, John Randall, right? Yeah, well, and Randall was missing before the break. Like when the Magic beat the Knicks, they were down at least, what was it? I want to say 9 guys. Like, it was a stupid number. Their front court was decimated. So obviously the Magic won. And no, Paolo did play that game. So yeah, I mean, some of it. Listen, some of it are they're catching teams at the right time for them. Like for example with the Knicks, they were down that many guys. The Knicks came back into town fully healthy and won dominant. But I think what's getting missed a lot too. Granted, it's earlier in the season, but what they're doing to teams at full strength, like completely dominating both the Lakers and the Nuggets here in town. There's so many huge wins against good teams by the Magic this year that are getting overlooked. The Cavs are 3rd, but the Magic have played them strong too. I think it's something where I'll put it this way. If I'm any team in the East, I'm not looking forward to having to play a team that's as laboring as the Magic, who has size, who plays great defense, and God help you if they happen to be hitting it in the rim hitting it in the net that night and shooting well, which is their biggest weakness.
Yeah, and then who they remind me of, honestly, not as far as player wise, but the trajectory that they're on reminds me of the Orlando Magic of old with Shaq and all that. You saw where they had Shaq, they had Penn, but no, you saw them rise. So to me, the year when Shaq's rookie year, they didn't make the playoffs, right?
Right.
But you saw Orlando moving. You saw them going in that direction. Same thing last year. Then the next year, they think they were in '94. They were like 6th or whatever, 6th or 7th, I believe, because they played. Who they played first round? Was it Indiana? I can't remember who they played first round. But either or, they went with Penny. They got swept, but still, to me, that reminds me of this year with Orlando. But then the next year, nowhere. True enough, they got Horace Grant. They might add somebody else, but Orlando were young, and then next thing you know, they're the cream of the crop.
Mm-hmm. And this team is still plenty young. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I just see that trajectory right there. You got a very good coach, maybe a great coach, and then you got these young players that are still figuring it out, learning, but they're gonna only get better. They got better from last year with all of these injuries, and then next year, this is year 3, year 4 for them, year 5, and they're close knit as well, And I just think you're gonna see them now. They're gonna be a top 4 team in the East. Believe it, people say, okay, they're gonna be top 4 in the East.
I mean, well, especially if things continue to break their way. Because, like, listen, I am a Joel Embiid guy. I love watching him play basketball. One of my favorite things I've gotten to do this year is watch him and Joker play basketball in person and be thoroughly impressed by them. But when it comes to staying healthy, Embiid is not exactly the most consistent dude.
Right.
I think that will always, I shouldn't say always, at this point it has me more likely to pick against Philly making it to the finals because it's a marathon and not a sprint. This is not me hating on the Sixers by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't pick them to make the finals because of that, which then leaves me with the Bucks and the Celtics. And then moving Drew Holiday, I hated that, Raph. And Chris Middleton, listen, speaking of Danny Thompson, I said years ago doing the show with Beyond the Buzzer with him, in the postseason, they perform as Chris Middleton goes. If Chris Middleton ends up on the back of a milk carton, so too do their finals chances. Sure enough, the year they won it, Chris Middleton absolutely went off.
Well, he's playing like that now. Like, this is the first time he's looked healthy in 2 years. I just watched him play against the Hawks, and yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, he's back now. He's confident. He's feeling better. He's moving better. But you know what? With Philly was my pick before the year to go to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 7 games they have left after. I think it's after tonight.
And they're starting to work Embiid back in.
Yeah, he came in. So my only thing is, will that be enough for the team to adjust to having Embiid, which they should win, but still just adjust as a whole and play better because you have you have different parts now. You have Kyle Lowry and then you have Buddy Hield. You know, I think with Kyle Lowry, you insert a winner. He's a winner. He's always the missing piece to a winning team. You saw what he did in Miami last year. They came up short, but you saw what he did for Miami. And it's not just because he's scoring a lot or he's getting a lot of assists. He's doing everything you need him to do, the little stuff that wins games in the playoffs, charges, steals, or create a turnover. It might not be the steal, but it creates a turnover, or it creates a horrible shot, or he might make the hockey pass to get a better shot, or what have you. You know, it's there. I mean, he's a winner. That's what he does. You know, now you had these other parts. You got a 3-point shooter and a shooter and Buddy Hield who just don't make 3-pointers, but he can, pump fake, go up, hit the mid-range, or even drive to get a layup, what have you. But you got another scorer coming off the bench. You know, you have these players now, these gritty players, these tough players. I'm telling you, if I don't know if it's enough time, that's the only thing. If they have enough time to adjust, put it like this: if they get past the second round, if they get to the play, because they didn't play in, but if they get in the first, they get past the first round, they make the playoffs, they get past the first round, and they get to the second, if they pass the second round, I got them going to the finals. I just think that as relentless as not Embiid, but Giannis is, then you have Dame as well. I just feel like that team isn't constructed to win. They're not built to win like a Philly is. And then the fact that you have, this is why I had them going to the finals, because you add Nick Nurse. I think Nick Nurse.
Oh, I dig. Listen, I love that dude as a coach.
Yeah. And that's why I have them there. But like I said, it's still going to be tough, man. Still got Milwaukee. Boston have to prove themselves, whatever, but it's going to be tough. Even with the Knicks, if Randall comes back, and I know Randall usually disappears, but the way that Brunson is playing, I think they're going to cause some problems as well. But of course, a team that probably no one is talking about, forget, I still say you got to watch out for Miami. So as much as everybody said the West is deep, and I still think right now the East is going to be a problem, you know, especially with, like I said, Miami. And if Miami and Philly both get in there, they shoot, you never know. They might meet Eastern Conference Finals, because I like what Miami did. So with adding Rozier. So yeah, so as I'll take that back. Spoelstra is the best coach in the East.
Spoelstra's amazing. Yeah.
I like Nick Nurse. I'm sorry. I like Nick Nurse though. But
yeah. No, I well, listen. I like I said, I like Spo's my guy too, but like I'm Nick Nurse all day, man. I mean, he's the dude that got the Magic. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, before Mosley got to town, that got him to win that playoff game against the Raptors. Sure, they got swept the rest of the way, but the fact that they were able to get a playoff win and make that push late in that season where the Raptors would go on to be the champions, was impressive, and that happened under Nick Nurse's watch. By the way, Nick Nurse, the guy that brought the trophy home for the Raptors as well, I think. I may have that history mixed up a little bit, but anyways, I'll leave all that.
You talking about as far as the coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, they won. They won.
So there you go.
Yeah.
With that in mind, you can't rule the Heat out, but
wait. His first year too, Kyle. And this is why this is reminiscent. He won his first year as the head coach in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I just feel like you're going to see. But I guess he was there though. So he had that little bit, he knew the players. So he was already there, but as assistant coach. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But so I'll say this for the Heat. I like the Heat. Obviously, I like Spo. All that's going on there. Dark horse always because of what they got there with Bam and Himmy. I get it. My thing is, I feel like Jimmy Butler at this point has just been asked to do entirely too much for entirely too long for that team. I just don't know if he has enough gas in the tank. We'll find out, obviously, how silly I can look later on. For me, Drew Holiday going from the Bucks to the Celtics is why I have the Celtics in the finals. I know that's trendy, but that's where I'm at, and it's because of Drew Holiday. Say what you want about Tobias Harris and all that. That's adorable. Drew Holiday was the difference maker for me as a support guy. I will back you on this. You said second. I'm saying if Joel Embiid looks good and gets past round one, because today it looks like he's going to have to do a play-in. If he can even get past round one after the play-in, right? At that point, I will sign off with you that the Sixers will make it to the Eastern Conference and be playing the Celtics for the right to go to the finals. That's where I'll leave that.
Hey, real quick, the thing about Boston is, because I'm with you, I think Drew Holiday, adding him was like, all right, that's a step up. Now,
not only was it a step up, it made weaker Milwaukee.
That's what you need. Even though losing what's my guy name? Lee. I can't think of his name. But losing the point guard that was there that went to Memphis. I can't think of his name right now, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But I can't think of his name right now. But either or, to me, he was the guy that was a winner. And I felt like I thought I was a great replacement. But Drew's going to play great D, and he's going to get big buckets at the end. But I can't think of his name. But my guy, even though he's injured now, but he was the guy that made all the winning plays, hit the big three, get a charge. He was the Kyle Lowry of the Celtics. So I feel like that's the part that's going to Marcus Smart. That's the part that
there you go.
They're going to miss. But regardless how great Drew Holiday is, they won't win anything unless Jason Tatum steps up. If Jason Tatum doesn't step up and play like we know he can, they're not going to win. And to me, he's been the downfall. It hasn't been coaching, has been no one else. Jaylen Brown stepped up last year. It's been Tatum. It has been. I tried to deviate from that 2 years ago. I tried to say, no, he was hurt. And I believe he was hurt, but no, he wasn't. And that's why I feel like that, but with Miami, man, I just think that, like I said, you mentioned Jimmy Butler. Jimmy's taking off for the season, if you notice that.
Yeah.
So he'll have his energy, but they've been leaning on Bam a lot more.
A little bit of load management. Yeah, Bam, listen, man. I've given so many apologies to Bam because last year going into those finals, I said, listen, you did great. You're about to be silenced by the Joker. No, that did not happen.
Right.
Right. I'm still on my Bam Adebayo apology tour. Oh, man. With all that in mind, let me take it to the West real quick here to kind of draw the episode to the end here. I know OKC's number one. I can't shake that it's going to be Denver and Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. How crazy am I?
You think it's going to be Denver? I don't think you're crazy. This is the key though with Minnesota. because I said in the beginning that I don't know if Minnesota is ready. But man, the more Anthony Edwards play and the more I see him play, when
Right.
I tell you that guy has it, um, and I like, I like the fact that they they got the veteran point guard. They got him. I can't think of his name either. But of course with K Towns, and then and I know everybody always gets on the one who started COVID. I don't know why I keep saying it, but I felt like he was the first. He started COVID when he rubbed.
Started COVID.
But anyway, I'm talking about the center, y'all. But anyway, I think I don't know if I wonder if they have the right coach to take him there. I mean, he's done a hell of a job.
Yeah.
And the team, and they're missing Towns right now, and Anthony Edwards
right now. That's what I was going to say. That's the one thing that
yeah.
makes me worried about that, because when he and Gobert are on the floor together, forget about it.
But
we're just coming out, like you say,
but you know what? The thing is, even though you're not playing a one game and move on like March Madness, but it's still like the tournament. Like I said before, you could be the best team throughout the season. But when it comes to the playoffs, that's why Miami's that team, like that NC State you don't want to play in the tournament, because they could just go off. They might not have a great record, or that good of a record, but yet still they'll go to the end. And I think with the West, I don't think OKC is going to be there. I can't see them going. Denver, yes, of course.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Denver is Thanos. Pick whoever you want, but it's Denver and somebody in the Western Conference.
Right. Now, who is that going to be? That's where it gets tricky. Like you said, if Edwards lead them and Edwards is the player that we know him to be or we expect him to be, then Minnesota could be there. But it's going to take Towns to, help him as well. But I mean, can LA make a run? Who knows? And I'm talking about the Lakers. But even with the Clippers right now,
I don't know what to make of them. Yeah,
you don't know, because I mean, you think about Harden and what he's done, and can he? I think Russ is going to be a big for them. Of course, they got Kawhi, and you still have PG. And they have a great coach in Lou. I don't know, man. I don't think Dallas is going to be a factor. I mean, they're going to be a tough out. I don't think Phoenix is going to be a factor. They need a point guard. So Warriors, who knows? Maybe they could go on a run. I don't think so, but it's hard. I don't think so, but at the same time, you just never know. It's hard to count them out. I mean, no one expected them to go all the way last year, and they did, but they don't have Poole this year. But still, you just never know. But all I'm saying is, you got a lot of seasoned teams that can make that run. Then you got this one team with Minnesota that they're young. You don't know. This is a team like, they can't do it. But can they? So I think that's the question. But I do believe that Denver is going to be there in the conference finals. So I'll say, you know what? I'm gonna say Denver and the Clippers.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Listen, I'm still getting over the fact that the Sacramento Kings for a second year in the row might be in the playoffs. Listen, as somebody who grew up in the 90s, other than when they had Chris Webber in that group, okay? Like, anyways.
Right.
Raphael Haynes, man, tell the people where you could be found.
I could be found anywhere, everywhere. Just but no, I'm definitely on social media. You know how I always like to do. First of all, thank you for having me on. But I'm gonna big up the company first. Make sure you follow the company, 3-point conversion, and it's at 3PT CNVRSN, 3-point conversion. Or just you put up the 3-point conversion, you will find us, and we're on every outlet.
If you do at and 3PT, normally it fills the rest.
It'll come up. Yeah, it'll come up. But you'll see us. I mean, Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel, of course. I mean, make sure you subscribe to that. Facebook. Make sure you follow that. Instagram, X, not Twitter no more, but no.
X gonna give it to you? Is that what it is?
Right. X, then even TikTok, we're on there as well. So that's starting to build as well. But then myself, just look up Mr. Controversy 21 and all those. Well, I'm not on TikTok, but everywhere else I'm on there, man. And you'll see, but 3-point conversion, see guy like Kyle Nash, man, putting in a lot of stuff. Even when you don't see him, you don't know what he's doing, or you don't think he's doing anything. Sometimes you might see something from a 3-point conversion, and it might be coming from Kyle. So Kyle is
we
helping
mentioned
out.
Spoelstra earlier. I think that's one of my favorite things I've put on the 3-point conversion YouTube channel is Little Time Post Game here in Orlando with Eric Spoelstra. That was a good time.
Right.
Number of things you see up there from Orlando on the 3-point conversion YouTube channel. Just say it. Just have to throw that out there.
We got there, and Duval dive. Make sure, on a 3-point conversion. You go to our iHeartRadio. We're putting his on there, and I'm gonna say it on here. I'll say it on here. So I know I haven't been on it. I haven't done my show yet. I was out for a while. I'll speak about that once I come back on while I was out. But I wasn't arrested or anything like that. Nothing like that. But
not that kind of controversy. Yeah, none of that.
But
you're not summoning you for the Rice accident. That's not a thing. No, it did.
But either or, I'm like I said, you'll see me again. We just in there cooking, putting some stuff together, man. And but this year is going to be a big year for the 3-point conversion. I promise you that. You're going to see a lot of things happen. Also, follow us, man, on for the Final Four men's basketball. We're going to be there in Phoenix, so we'll have definitely exclusive coverage for you in the locker room, interviews, one-on-one interviews, and all. So make sure you check that out. And guys, I just want to say,
are you doing that personally, or who's the correspondent?
I'm gonna be there. I'll be there. We'll have Deshaun Tate. He's going to be helping as well. He's going to be with the 3-point conversion. So Deshaun Tate. But I'll say this. I'm gonna just leave out with this. If we get Caleb, this is the first time in history, NFL history, no other time ever, where a number 1 overall quarterback comes into a ready-made squad. Never. The overall pick is coming to a already made squad.
You don't count Ben Roethlisberger?
He wasn't number 1 overall.
That's true. Yeah. He was close.
Number 1 overall.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I'm saying number 1 overall. That doesn't happen. Ben was what pick number? What was he?
He was
he was top 10, I believe.
He was top 10. I want to say 3, but 7? That feels too high.
I don't know. I feel like he was 7. But either or, this is the first time, Mr. Student of the Game, that an overall number 1 quarterback comes to an already made team. So with his skill set, if he messes this up, you just have to be bad. I don't think that's going to happen, but yes, you're going to throw interceptions. The first year, and what I mean by that, I'm not saying the first year Bears going to the championship. No. It's the possibility they might even make the playoffs, but it shouldn't be where you see a quarterback struggle for most of the year. Like sometimes you see quarterbacks struggle because usually quarterbacks pick it up towards the end, but you have professionals throughout the team, whether it's the linemen, wide receivers, the defenses was top 5 by the end of the year they were playing. But Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, you got a Pro Bowl running back in Swift. Cole Kmet, you picked up Gerald Everett. You picked up the center from Buffalo. I'm just saying, and to me, we just got to worry about Waldron. What is he going to do? The offensive coordinator from Seattle.
The center from Buffalo went to Jacksonville, my guy.
The center from Buffalo. I mean, we got the guard. I'm sorry, guard from Buffalo.
I'm about to say,
the guard from Buffalo. We picked him up, but we picked up a center. I don't know I think he was the guard, but he was the guard and he could play. He played center, but he didn't play center. in Buffalo because of my man that went to Jacksonville. But
you got an upgrade. Yeah, no,
yeah,
because
he can play, but he's going to play center for us. He was the center, but because of my guy, they moved him to guard. But yeah, but we're going to put him at center. That was his natural spot, but he can play center and guard. But
there you go.
So
still an upgrade.
Yeah, but that's why I say that I'm just anxious to see how this goes. You know what I'm saying? As far as, again, if he messes this up, you have to be horrible. And when I mean horrible, when I say messes this up, I'm talking the team still goes 3-14. I'm saying that, or just win 5 games. You can't.
I don't think they're going to do that. I'll say that much.
No, I don't. But I'm right. But I'm just saying, if it does, even 5 games and that's it, the coach needs to be fired too. But if he plays that horrible, I just can't.
Man, listen. I'll say this: you're hoping for a little less Bryce Young, a little bit more C.J. Stroud in that instance. I hear you. I follow.
Right. Yeah. Shoot, look, I'll take a Bryce Young. I feel like if Bryce Young had better talent, he probably would have. Who knows? Like they wouldn't have looked as bad, you know. But no, definitely C.J. Stroud. You're right.
So I shan't front on that, and I'll put it this way: when I did my review on the 3-point conversion of the AFC South, I too saw the Texans improve. I didn't see 10 wins, but I saw the Texans improve. Right. Considering I picked your Bears for 8 wins last year with Justin Fields. Once I see that schedule, I have to tell you that's one I'm going to be wrestling with. I'll give you that much credit. So.
And don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, Kyle. We had 7 wins with Justin basically missing 6 games.
Yeah, so, I predict. Like I said, I predicted 8. You finished with 7. I'm off by 1. Hey, man, listen.
And he missed 6 games, and we gave 3 games. Don't get me started. But anyway,
hey, man, we can hug it out after the show. I got you. Anyway. Controversy, Raphael Haynes. Thanks for coming in. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the 3-point conversion, the Jaguar Report, and the Black and Gold Banneret, as well also as my podcast, The Duval Dive, with my man Travis Holmes of Big Cat Country, which you'll also find, by the way, on the 3-point conversion iHeartRadio channel, as well as oldschool101.com, 12 to 2 on Sundays on their sports block, as well as on the Sertoba Media and Huddle Up YouTube channels, much like you found this lovely show here. A great time all the way around. Check up also on my coverage with the Orlando Magic with A7BN Sports as well. I will be in the building again for the final home game of the season when the Milwaukee Bucks come to town and hopefully get some postseason action in there. I'll talk to you about that later, Contra, of course. So with all of that for Controversy, Raphael Haynes, I'm Kyle Nash, student of game. And until next time, everyone, class dismissed.